Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Elena. I'm the project manager of Data Insight at Remad Events. I can see the number of participants is increasing every second, so thank you very much for your attendance. Today, I have the pleasure to moderate this webinar called Agrivoltaics in Italy, combining the best of solar energy and agriculture. Before starting, I'm going to give you some housekeeping rules. First, the webinar is being recorded. I can assure you that the recording and the material we will send you by email in the next few days or in 1 week. People who are connected on Zoom, you have the chat where we encourage you to ask where you are from, what your company is, and why you are interested in this webinar. And then you have the Q&A box. All questions are very, very welcome, and I will try my best to address them all to our speakers. We expect today to receive a lot of questions. While people were connected on YouTube, you have just the chat for the introductions. How is the webinar? We have 3 speakers. Each one is going to give 50-minute talk. And then we have the Q&A Q&A section. The choice of the speaker wasn't casual. Each one was selected to give a different perspective given the topic of today, so agrivoltaics. So now I know the majority of them knows our speakers, but they deserve an introduction. So let's start with Celeste. Hello, Celeste, good morning.
Hi.
Thanks for accepting the invitation. Then we have Lorenzo. Hi, Lorenzo. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Elena. Good morning to everybody.
Lorenzo today is surrounded by ladies.
Yes, lucky boy.
And then we have Costanza. Costanza, thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena, for the invitation, and good morning, everyone.
Okay, again, last thing before starting, we remind you that on the 2nd and the 3rd of April, we will host our 2nd edition of Renera Energy Italia. We haven't started the agenda yet, but on September, we will start in September. Now it's time to start the webinar. So I will give the floor to Celeste. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Let me check whether everything is working. I think so. Yeah, can you see my screen? Not sure my screen is okay. Can you see it, right?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much to Ada. Thank you very much to Elena for inviting me to this very interesting webinar. I will have the occasion to listen to Lorenzo and Costanza, which is always a pleasure. I will start from a recap of the current situation in Italy about agrivoltaic. You know that this is a very particular period of time because there have been many news, many new regulations introduced in the very last days, which completed their procedure in the very last days and became effective. That can influence the development of PV project in Italy, as well as photovoltaics in Italy. That's some problems, sorry, with the presentation. Okay. By way of introduction, I'm Celeste Mellone. I'm a partner at Greenhorse and I co-head the regulatory and public law practice. Greenhorse, for the ones that does not know us, is a legal firm completely dedicated to energy, composed by lawyers as well as financial advisor and technical advisor with many years of experience in the field. Let's start from a very brief recap of the procedure applicable to the agrivoltaics in Italy. Agrivoltaics has a benefit from simplified procedure compared to the regular one. The regular one, for what concerns the environmental aspects, are the environmental assessment or the screening, depending on the size of the location of the projects, and under the building law, the AU, which is a complex procedure which involves many entities that have anyhow interest in the project, and through a steering committee which ends with the issuance of the AU indeed. For what concerns the agrivoltaics, normally agrivoltaics above 1 megawatt undergo an EIA screening, the one above 10 megawatt undergo a proper EIA. For what concerns the building permits, agrivoltaics plants above 1 megawatt undergo an EU unless they are located in suitable areas where the threshold is 12 megawatt. The same apply for the environmental procedure. But as we were saying before, the agrivoltaic plants benefit from a simplified authorization procedure if they are located in the so-called agrobelt, meaning that they are located within 3 kilometers from industrial or commercial areas. For what concerns the environmental procedure, it is like I said before, above 1 megawatt, they undergo to an EIA screening, above 10 an EIA procedure, unless they are located on industrial areas, and of course they are located within 3 kilometers. And then we have less applicable, less common procedure, ordinary maintenance dedicated to plant on suitable areas, which we don't see a lot as an authorization procedure. This is just a recap for the authorization procedure, which seems very, very easy, but it is not, because we have to consider that for an agri-PV plant, there are many factors to be considered. So condition of the soil, a proper agricultural plan that makes sense, interaction with the public authorities, agronomists, so also the professional involved in the projects. Agrivoltaic projects are very are somehow different from the ones involved in the regular PV plants authorization. And of course, it is necessary to have a partner with partnership with an agricultural companies in order to the plan to make sense. As far as concern the authorization procedure, we make reference to the Agri-PV guidelines that has been issued in 2022 by the MASE, as well that define the criteria according to which a plant can be actually considered an agrivoltaic plant, distinguishing between standard agri-PV and advanced agri-PV. These guidelines are relevant also to exactly understand from a case-by-case basis, which is the most correct authorization procedure to carry out. Not easy, actually, in the practice. And we also have technical rules and best practice that are not binding, but in any case are normally taken into consideration to carry on a proper development of the plant. But Lorenzo and Costanza can help on this later. We know that advanced agri-PV benefit from incentives in terms of incentive tariff and capital contributions. Incentive tariff for 20 years, capital contribution up to 40% of the investment cost, or at least some of them. As the ancillary documents, we have the implementing rules of the GSE and CREA GSE rules of monitoring system, which is one of the requirements. The beneficiary are agricultural entrepreneurs, agricultural company, or temporary association between investors and agricultural companies. These aspects are very sensitive because in order to have access to the incentives, it is necessary to have at least, as I was saying, an association between two entities that are very different one to another and that are jointly liable towards the authorities, including the GSE. As many of you probably already know, there is a tender ongoing, open in early June, and that will close this on to September 2024, and during which it is expected to allocate, if not all the megawatt at disposal, at least a big part of them, also because there are strict deadlines on the PNRR in terms of completing the installation of agri-PV and meet the expectation in terms of installed sites provided by the PNRR. This is very briefly the status of the authorization procedure incentives. We highlight that advanced agri-PV are those that meet some technical requirements in terms of minimum height from the ground, which vary depending on if the company will carry on agricultural activity or farming, and requirements in terms of monitoring systems to be implemented, and as we were saying, in order to have access to the incentive, also corporate requirements. What's going on in Italy? This is all very good and easy, but what's going on in Italy in these very days? After 3 months now, the Decreto Agricoltura was finally converted into law. There was a draft made available, and the actual issuance of the Decreto Agricoltura in May, and a few days ago it has been converted into law. The DL Agricoltura is, many of you may know, provides for some restriction to the installation of on-ground PV plants on agricultural land. There are some exceptions to this general ban, depending on the areas where the plants are located, for example, quarries and mines. With regard to certain type of plants, energy community and agrivoltaics plants, for example, or depending on the timing when the authorization procedure has been started, before or after the issuance of the Agrivoltura. For what concern the most sensitive aspect, agrivoltaic plants being exempted from this ban, it is questionable whether the law make reference only to advanced agrivoltaic plants or also regular standard agrivoltaic plants could be considered exempted from the ban. Under my point of view, considering the ratio of the law, which is to avoid the consumption of soil, in my view, I was saying also standard agrivoltaic plants should be exempted from this ban. This is, in my view, the only way to make sense for this provision to make sense. Of course, it is always possible that a developer may face authorities that apply a more restrictive interpretation of the law. So we expect a lot of litigation in the future. While for what concern the other sensitive provision of this DL Agricoltura, the provision that was inserted into the law of conversion and was actually unexpected. There is it is stated the minimum duration of the surface right related to PV plants on idonous areas. So the wording is not clear at all. It expressly make reference to both definitive DDS agreement and preliminary one, but they have different nature. For example, the DDS is a real estate right. The preliminary contract is only make provides for obligations for the parties to enter into a real estate right agreement. So it is reasonable to think that, or the most reasonable way to read this provision is that the surface right, so the real estate right, must have a duration or at least 6 years plus 6 year extension, and that the reference to the preliminary agreements must be interpreted as those preliminary agreements can provide a term whatsoever to enter into the final one, but the final one must have a duration compliant with the law, so 6 plus 6. Not clear to me why this apply only on the idonous areas and not for the other, but that's it. We will see how the courts will interpret this. I don't have a lot of time. I see that I have nearly terminated my time, so I will go quickly to the Aredone decree. Finally, after 1 year and a half, the Aredone decree has been issued. Compared to the previous draft, we highlight that the region have been provided with a wide power to decide what will be in their territory the idonous areas and the non-idonous areas, or the grey one. So the criteria that were given by the MASE and indicated in the previous draft have been completely erased. There are few guidelines, and which means that the region are free to decide what will going on their territory. Also here we expect a lot of litigation, especially because unlike the decree, Aredone decree, the Decreto Agricoltura, the Aredone decree does not provide a transitory provision, which means that all the projects, also the ongoing one, will suffer the new set of regional legislation, the impact of the regional legislation on the arid owner, unless they meanwhile complete their authorization procedure, which does not give certainty in the market, because to have a clear view on what it is possible to do and what is not possible to do in each region, it is necessary to wait for 6 months, at least 6 months, for the region to complete their mapping of the territory using this white power. And finally, I would spend really 10 seconds about the moratoria in Sardinia. We know that the Sardinia region has recently issued a law that states that all the procedures for authorizing fair plant in the region are suspended. Even if we hear from the president of Sardinia that this moratorium also apply to projects that already get the authorization, the law itself and the relazione, so-called relazione illustrativa, makes clear that the authorization already issued are not affected by the moratorium. We also would like to spend a few words on the fact that the procedure at state level are as well not affected. Let's think about the EU at state level for BESS plans. But of course, we expect that the region will, that is involved in the authorization procedure, will give a negative opinion. And then it is always possible for the MASE to issue the EU, but this make the Sardinia region the power to claim against the EU. So also here we will expect litigation on the horizons. So this is in brief what's going on in Italy. I'm sorry that I have used more time than I was expected to do, and thank you very much again.
Thank you, Celeste. Okay, now Lorenzo, is your turn. Good luck.
Thank you, everybody. Let me share my presentation. Okay. Okay. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to everybody to be here. Good morning. My name is Lorenzo Lodi Rizzini. I am the head of the PV business unit in Renera in Italy. What I would like to do today is to give you the point of view of a development company regarding agrivoltaics plans and projects. But first, company, a trader, and also a consultancy company. We have offices in 5 countries: Switzerland, of course, Italy, Germany, Spain, and Romania. What we do in Italy? We are operating in Italy since 2019. We have our headquarters in Milan. We have a team of 32 people in the last 2 or 3 years. So we grew up very fast. We have 1 gigawatt of pipeline, and when I say pipeline, I mean a real pipeline. So project with at least a grid connection solution, land contracts, and of course preliminary design. And we have 3 main business units where I divide our business here in Italy: PV, storage, battery energy system, standalone, and biomethane. So jumping back to our topic today, well, let me say that it's not easy to talk about, as Celeste said 2 minutes ago, it's not easy to talk about agrivoltaics in Italy now. We have a not clear regulation, we have a not clear definition, not clear difference between basic and advanced agrivoltaic projects, even if basic and advanced are mentioned in regulation standards and laws. So what I would like to say, the first thing that I would like to underline is that we need and we have and we are going to have a partnership between agricultural activities and energy producers, a partnership. So no conflict between agriculture and renewable energies. Which kind of partnership? Sometimes we have the impression, maybe more than the impression, that the legislator, the government, would want to give to the farmers the possibility also to produce energy. I personally don't think this is the right partnership that we need. If we add that kind of targets for the 2030, we need utility scale projects and plants. If we want to have utility scale projects and plants, everybody has to do his own job, let me say. So we need the farmers, the agricultural activities, and we need the energy companies, these kind of partnerships. And always think that we need less than 1% of agricultural land to reach the target of the 2030. So not a lot. So first thing, partnership. And then with if we start now to develop agrivoltaic plants and projects, we can manage the risk of the development. Which kind of risk? Cost risk, because for sure, in suitable areas, the cost of the land will increase. Another risk is the misinterpretation of these new rules and laws. I'm pretty sure that some public administration will ask us to develop and have agrivoltaic plants also in suitable areas, just because we are on agricultural land. This is a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation, but we're gonna face it for sure. So if we start with agrivoltaic projects by now, probably we can manage it. Other risk, no, the opportunity is to speed up the procedure to reach the final authorization for construction and operation if we have an agrivoltaic project, and of course to better face the single and specific regional guidelines that we will see that will appear in the next months. Celeste told us, and we are going to see different guidelines region by region, and probably if we start now with an agrivoltaic project, we can face it better. The big mistake. I think that we have already done a big mistake, and which is with this big mistake is the will to fix some technical parameters through regulations, laws, and standards. For example, the guideline, the minister guidelines. We need another approach. I developed wind farms. It's not the case that we have some wind turbines here on the right in the chart. I developed wind farms for several years, and everybody who designed wind farms knows that when you design a wind farm, you have a specific wind turbine, a specific technology for each specific land, for each specific site. And this is the approach that we think we will need to have also for photovoltaic systems. A specific agrivoltaic photovoltaic system for every single land. This is a quality-based approach. This is not copy and paste. This is a tailor-made approach. This is something that maybe for photovoltaics is not so common, but we have to think in this way. and to avoid, let me say, this big mistake that is to fix some technical parameters through regulations and laws. Which we plant in which area to date, because probably everything is changing second by second. So I don't know, maybe by the end of the speech, something has been changed by the regulator. But let me say, very simple chart. In suitable areas, because my friends, we still have suitable areas. CTER 2, CTER 3, landfills, in the industrial lands, we still have suitable areas, and in that areas we can optimize power, space, and of course the technology. On generic agricultural fix, the Renera approach, our idea is the same that Celeste told us 5 minutes ago. We think that we can develop also basic agro-PV, agrivoltaic projects also on agricultural fields. I don't really like to use basic or some other words to define the agrivoltaic project. Probably what we could say is that we need to develop projects that can respect the previous value and the previous use of the fields. So this kind of agro-PV, agrivoltaic plants on generic agricultural fields. And to finish, some technical aspects. Sorry if I repeat myself, but this is a young technology, and only the experience we will have and we will do in the next months on design, construction, and operation will help us to define all the technical aspects regarding agrivoltaic projects. What we can say now is that, and the approach that we have when we design a new project, a new agrivoltaic project, or when we approach a new authorization procedure, is that, of course, we have advanced agrivoltaic project, basic agrivoltaic project, and fixed. What we do is, of course, to be aligned with the ministerial guidelines. So when we have advanced agrivoltaic projects, 100% of the land is dedicated to also to agricultural activities. With advanced projects, we need to make the choice between 1P technology or 2P technology, and of course, this choice is related to another choice, the pitch choice. When we have 1P technology, probably we stay between 5 and 6 meters, related also to lower parameter. When we can do a 2P technology choice, we are around 7 and 9 and 11. Usually we have 9 meters of pitch. Of course, also the height from the ground is based on ministerial guidelines. When we have basic agrivoltaic projects, or as I said before, it's better to say project that truly reflects the land's agricultural requirements, and to optimize power and space and trackers functionality to respect the previous use and value of the land. Well, when we can do that, of course, we can reduce a little bit the land dedicated to agricultural activities. So we stay around the 70%, at least 70%, of course. We used to have a 2P technology and a 2P pitch. And at least we can have a distance from the ground level that is 0.8. I mean, it's depending on what we have, what is cultivated or grazed. Of course, it depends on that. We will have the height from the ground. And we don't have to forget that we could have also fixed structures in case of grazing. Why not? Easier, simple, and cheaper. So thank you very much. I think that I spent 10, 12, 15 minutes as Elena asked us.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo, for your speech. Now it's Costanza's turn. Good luck.
Thank you, Elena. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you all see it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, good morning, everyone. So I'm Costanza Rizzo, and I'm Senior Agri-PV Manager at Statkraft Italy. And today I will present a little bit of our approach and then try to kind of make an effort to understand if the type of approach that we are using in Italy, and I would say maybe also not just in Italy, is the correct one, or we need to maybe shift to a new approach, new paradigm. So just a few words on Statkraft for those that don't know the company. Statkraft is Europe's largest producer of renewable energy. We are a state-owned Norwegian company. We were born more than 100 years ago, specializing especially on hydropower. But recently we have expanded our activities in several parts of the globe and are doing other technologies. As in Italy, where we arrived about 3 years ago, we are originating, developing, but also will construct and own our renewable plants. When it comes to agrivoltaics, we have 1.2 gigawatt of projects in permit, and 40 megawatt have been already authorized. So in terms of what type of projects we do, we try always to do projects that are sustainable, environmentally, economically, and socially. These three components are all important, and one project can't have just two of them. So economically, I would say it's one thing that should be there. In terms of like type of crops, we use a wide range of crops. I would say that it depends a lot on the situation, the context, the partner that we work with, the region, etc. But in general, we do real agriculture, so horticulture, olive groves, legumes, forages, and also energy crops. We have a few projects also with animal, in particular sheep. And in terms of PV layout, it depends a lot also, but of course, as I said before, the considerations in terms of economic sustainability need to be there. So we use, of course, the most mature technology at the moment, which is single axis trackers, 2 or 1P, and the height and pitch, of course, depends on the considerations. And in terms of pitch, we are aligned with what Lorenzo presented. So we are about 9 and 10 meters, depending on the crop. In some cases, even 11, 12, for example, if we have olive groves. And the height, it depends on the activity and what is requested also by the agricultural farmer. The cultivated area can be in the interrow, is often in the interrow, but we also have projects in which we intend to cultivate underneath the panels, even if we are basic agri-PV, but if the agronomist and the farmer say that it is possible, we accept the choice. So in terms of how we develop agrivoltaics, what is our approach? We have a strong belief that in Italy, when it comes to agricultural land, agrivoltaics is an evolution of the photovoltaic. So currently it's an obliged choice, but when we arrived in 2021, it wasn't such, it was that mandatory, but in any case, we have developed all our projects in agricultural land as agri-PV projects. When possible, of course, we try to bring on board the company, the agricultural company. This is becoming more common recently because like we meet and face farmers that want to do an agrivoltaic. It wasn't exactly the same a few years ago when simply we were facing farmers that just wanted to stop their activity and so wanted to give their land. It is important that projects are economically sustainable, as I said before. So, for example, this consideration of the high structures and the advanced agri-PV makes sense only in some cases. So we don't go for it always, of course, but only if it is needed and if it makes sense. And another point that is crucial in our project is that we believe that the agricultural component as well must be economically viable as a separate business. So we don't envisage the possibility to subsidize the agricultural activity if it is not sustainable. So we are seeing that there is a lot of focus on what type of crops can grow in an agrivoltaic context environment, but there is no much attention of the fact that agriculture is a business. So we have to consider also the market. So what can actually be sold? And on this, the flexibility is crucial. Consider to go to a farmer and tell the farmer to select a rotation of crops for 30 years. This is just absurd. The decision of a farmer, of an entrepreneur in the agricultural sector, of which crop growing changes sometimes yearly, if not even seasonally, and depends a lot on the market, price of inputs, etc. So we believe that there must be more consciousness of this and more flexibility also when it comes to presentation of agronomic proposal that cannot be fixed in the stone. The project design is usually made by a team with mixed competencies, not only agronomic and engineering, but also agribusiness competencies. The agribusiness competencies, for example, can help understanding what type of business model will be applied. Here, this is a very a real simplification. Reality is much more complex, but just to give you an idea of how we are how we are imagining the activity. So Statkraft will have the land from the landowner, and if the landowner has a farm and wants to continue the activity, then the agricultural activity will be done by the landowner. The two activities will be separated. Each one actor will be responsible for its own. Of course, Statkraft is the ultimate responsible actor for the entire project. Another option is that in which, as I said, the landowner doesn't want to continue, and we have to identify a third part that is to be involved. As I said, this is very a real simplification, given that in many cases landowners are 10, 12, 15, so it can become more and more complex. So in terms of the why we do it, why we do agrivoltaic, why we decided to invest in this sector. As I said, now it's not anymore a choice, but when we arrived, it was a choice. And we saw an opportunity for us to concretely practice what we preach. So to make it possible for us to act responsibly and to make an impact. And these are two of our values. So we believe that the possibility to do photovoltaic in a way that doesn't giving us the opportunity to do a double use of the land is a good thing, and in my opinion, the possibility to increase land efficiency in a context and in a situation in which resources like land are scarce and you have to produce food and energy, this should be already enough to go for agrivoltaics. But it also gives us the possibility to improve our local and social impact and, of course, acceptance. But there are a lot of other social and environmental positive impact that can be stimulated with agrivoltaics. I'm not going with the agronomic part, which is already always discussed. So protection of the crops, saving in water, etc. I will now try to focus on the Italian sector, and now we believe that in the way it is structured, the presence of the agrivoltaics, of course, it's limited in those situations in which can be done, could actually be something positive for the sector. So the agricultural sector, especially if we talk about the south of Italy, tend to be in Italy, still a traditional sector with high emissions and low technology. It's also very often based on monocropping and sometimes unsustainable practices. it has become an unviable business. Every time that we meet a farmer, like this is something that is repeated, like we are not surviving just with agriculture. Like it's a sector in which like European subsidies, for example, have become essential to make the business viable. And it's also a sector that tend to be not very much attractive to the young people. So no sector for young people. And then there are all the issues that are linked to the fact that tend to be an informal sector. One that we have unfortunately heard recently about is the issue of caporalato, which for those that are not familiar with the concept is basically the exploitation of vulnerable groups of people, especially immigrants, which work in very hard conditions with very low salaries. So with agrivoltaics, we can actually have a positive impact on all these aspects. Agrivoltaics will give a kind of boost towards the electrification of the sector. Also, we expect that kind of like more qualified workers will start and enter the market. So qualified agricultural workers that can also do the kind of O&M activities. So also, if you think of the agrivoltaic where the cultivation is done only in the interrow, this is a less intensive type of agriculture, which is in line with the request made by Europe. The recent land restoration law is asking for like the need to save some part of the land and leave the land the possibility to restore. We are going towards the certification in several parts of the world, including Italy and Europe. It is, of course, a source of additional revenues for farmers, and it can become an innovative and attractive sector even for young generations. And then, of course, in agrivoltaics, the type of, the structure is more controlled. The system is more controlled, and workers are allowed to enter the premises only if they are authorized personnel. So one would say, well, perfect, let's do it. It's fantastic. Well, unfortunately, in Italy, not. Apart from the usual NIMBY syndrome and the general fear of the unknown, there are a lot of other issues. Some have been greatly discussed already by the previous speakers. But then we have also the agricultural associations that accept the concept only if certain requirements are there, which in my opinion are not exactly what we should look at, especially the height of the structures. So there seems to be an obsession towards this height of the structure, which sometimes it does not define the success of the project. And then this idea that agriculture should go first, so that the photovoltaic should adapt to agrivoltaic. This is, in theory, something that can be agreed upon, but we have to consider that the project has to remain sustainable economically. So otherwise, we need public funds. So we have to decide if we want to go with something that can be self-sustained, or if we want to use public funds to do it. Then, of course, as we said, the national normative framework is ambiguous and unclear. The regional normative framework adds complications and sometimes, and very often actually, is inconsistent from one region to the other, or even compared to the national one. And I have to say, we have received as a sector inefficient support by the guidelines and other type of documents on technical specifications that have been produced in the last 2 years. I understand that the objective was that to support the sector, but the focus has been too much on rigid requirements on the centimeter, more, less it's better, more is like, really, are we getting the complexity of the picture? Are we really addressing what is needed? And also something that is a bit annoying is that often these documents have been elaborated consulting a limited group of people, not representing the plethora of stakeholders, and very, very often excluding big companies that are actually the only ones that will be able to do utility scale agrivoltaics. So just my last slide. So what I am proposing is like, we have to accept that this is a complex system and we have to move towards a new paradigm. It's not a matter of which component should adapt to the other, but it's a matter of looking the picture on its entire, on its wall, and understand if we want to do it. If we want to do it, we have to make sure that it happens. There is too much focus on irrelevant requirements. It's like we are mistaking the finger for the moon. This is the classic situation in which the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Agrivoltaics is not photovoltaic plus agriculture. It's something more. So we need a systemic approach. We need to look at the big picture, but how can we do it? It's essential that we make cross-systemic collaboration with all the stakeholders. Long-term change in this kind of complex systems cannot happen if stakeholders are siloed. And we need experience, we need data, and we need evidence-based decisions. Currently, policymakers are taking decisions based on just theory. Before we take rigid decisions that can impede the development, that can block the development of the sector, we need evidence-based, we need data, and we need then to take evidence-based decisions. It can definitely help the creation of communities of practice. Something is happening in the sense in Italy and in other countries, but it is essential that all the stakeholders can have a voice. So what is, and here the role of associations is crucial, but associations should be trustful, there shouldn't be conflict of interest, and we all have to be together, like big companies, small companies as well, of course, but like making sure that those that are then really able to do agrivoltaics are in the discussion. And so, but what is the role of the normative framework then? I'm not saying that we don't need rules. We need absolutely rules. We need clear rules that define a perimeter, but we need to avoid rigid requirements that will have only the result of blocking the system. On the other side, we need diversified experiences, as Lorenzo was saying, quality, tailor-made projects. So we will then start doing and understand and then improve. So I conclude with a hope that we will start looking at the moon. Thank you.
Thank you, Costanza. Thank you very much. We have some minutes left for some questions. Okay, there is one for all speakers. So there are two definitions of agri-PV according to the Italian guidelines for agrivoltaics. It is not clear that the base agri-PV is allowed to be developed in the agriculture areas. Can you give some interpretation of what the DLA Agricoltura reports about this? Is for the free.
Well, I can start as I said during my presentation. As also Celeste said the same thing, I think. Yeah, we think so. Also, basic agrivoltaic plants and projects can be developed and on agricultural fields. This is an interpretation. It's not sure, but if we develop good projects, quality projects, probably also basic or something around basic, a good compromise between the use of the soil and the energy production could be developed till the end of the process. So for our interpretation, Renera interpretation, yes, also basic can be developed.
Yeah, I agree.
If I can, yeah, I'm not sure. It's yeah, there are interpretations. What is sure, I think, is that not sure. What is another interpretation? Is that that space was left intentionally because there were some amendments that were going in the like direction of like clarifying the issue, but were then not included in the final text. So I think there is the intention of leaving, maybe because also there is an ongoing understanding internally, maybe also for those that have made the law, it's not clear and they need time to understand, but I think that there is space for sure to try with that interpretation.
Thank you. How much more expensive are no advanced agrivoltaics and advanced agrivoltaic versus traditional ground-mounted PV projects?
I can start again. It's not easy. We need more experience. Around 20-25%. The advanced agrivoltaic projects are more expensive than 20-25%, more or less. Also, Costanza could tell us maybe something about that. But as Costanza said, we always have to think that, it could be feasible to spend more money if it's to find the right balance between agricultural activities and a good project. I don't know if it's feasible to spend more money if a lower standard or something like that oblige us to have maybe a higher panel or something like that. So we have to face the truth, and the truth is that we also need projects aligned with some economics and financial parameters, as Costanza said. So yeah, more capex, but we hope to remain in a good situation.
Thank you very much. Does the regulation specify any restrictions on the method of installation of structures? For example, concrete foundation for the piles can restrict the agricultural activity in the area after the PV plant has been dismantled.
And I can answer under the legal point of view. Of course, it all depends from the requirements given by the authorities in the authorization procedures. Normally, concrete is not allowed, but it could be necessary to install the plant. So the problem here is that an assessment can be made on a case-by-case basis. In general, it is not easy to say something that is applicable to all the kind of plants on the region, or there may be particular reason why in that very area there are some prescriptions and not in another. So the problem here is that a project must be assessed on a case-by-case basis together with technicians, agricultural experts in order for a project to have sense, to make sense. I don't know if Lorenzo and Costanza can...
Yeah, I just want to add that this creates, for example, a paradox. So the paradox is that foundations are not accepted usually. But if you go higher, you need more foundations. Like the probability that you will need a foundation increases. So this is something, for example, that I would like to ask to the agricultural associations, and like if they don't want foundations, that we cannot go higher. It's like that.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, now one more question each. So, for example, Celeste, when do we expect to have more clarity on their regulatory framework?
Yes, we have to wait for the regions to complete the mapping of the Agrivoltaic decree, because as we were saying before, the decree does not provide a a specific regulation about the procedure that are ongoing. So the new regulation of the regions will apply to the ongoing process according to the Tempus Regit Actum principle. It is the more reasonable interpretation aligned to the legal framework, which is not helpful, but it is like that. So because the region have been given so much power and so less boundaries, we will have more clarity only in 6 months, to the extent that the deadline is respected, or even could be even more.
Thank you very much. What future does Renera see for renewables market in Italy?
Yeah. Well, in the end, a very good future, let me say. We see that investors are still really interested in Italian market, in Italian renewable energy market. So what we see is that everybody is paying attention, of course, about what is happening, and of course, especially about the regulation side of the market. But nobody is afraid. Nobody here is afraid. So we have seen several situations, several moments like this. So no worries at all. I would like to spend one word about the previous question. When things are going to be less confused, I don't really know. But let me say something. Everybody at regional level, government level is changing the rules, is changing the laws. Nobody is changing the targets. Nobody is changing the targets because probably they cannot, of course. But this is also something really important to and related to how we see the future of the market and this situation. So what is going to happen probably is that the rules are going to change again when in 1 year, 2 years, a couple of months, I don't know. We will see that we cannot reach the targets that we have for the 2030. Rules are going to change again. In the opposite way, probably. So, well, this is the situation. We have to face it. No worries and don't be afraid.
I like your positivity, Lorenzo. Nowadays. And then we have the last question for Costanza. In your opinion, what is impeding a fruitful collaboration among the two sectors, agriculture and energy?
Well, I would say that for a fruitful collaboration, there is, first of all, the need to have like the willingness to discuss and collaborate. So this is something that maybe is missing from one part. We are willing to sit on a table and discuss with agricultural associations. We discuss every day with farmers, and I have to say that farmers are happy and enthusiastic of the idea of doing agrivoltaics together with us. So what I would say, it's more in opposition of the associations. Not sure why, maybe not clear understanding of the concept. But then what is also needed for a collaborative, like to make sure that we sit together at the table, is a kind of a champion, like a personality or group, an association that has the trust of both sides and is able to bring everyone together and sit at the table. I think that there are some associations that may play that role in Italy, and hopefully this will happen soon. It's a win-win solution.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, our speaker, for your precious insights on the topic. Thank you very much for the message you sent to our audience. And this is the end of the webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you very much all for the invitation and for your attendance. I again assure you that the presentation, the recording will be sent in the next few days. Don't worry. And we are happy to welcome you also in our upcoming event in storage next April. And that's it. Thanks. I want to thank again our speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.